Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Kia ora, Bolt fam. It's the director. Chargers fans, we are 24 hours away from the Chargers taking the field for the first time, and be it our first preseason game, but nonetheless, it's going to be so amazing seeing this roster out there on the field, especially when considering how deep some of these positions are looking. The battle positions are going to be fierce, as there are some very talented players fighting for a roster spot right now, which should make for some of the more interesting preseason football that we've witnessed as Chargers fans. Now, this first, I would say, game preview video is going to be a little bit different, as it is our first preseason video, but more I wanted to lay out who's going to be playing on Saturday night, who to maybe monitor for, because again, a lot of position battles, and maybe some of the guys that I feel are going to have a very strong preseason to give them either A, leg up in making the roster, or B, a leg up on getting more snaps and touches throughout the season. Either way, it should be a very fun one today as we start to build the hype towards the Chargers' first game of the season on Saturday night. It should be a good one. And as a reminder, guys, I was watching the preseason just a couple of days ago, and it does seem that we are going to be able to live stream our commentary and reaction on Saturday night too. So if you guys got some time, if you don't got anybody to watch the game with, hit us up in the live chat. It should be a very fun time with hundreds of Chargers fans screaming and cheering and monitoring the new team as we get ready for kickoff in September. Before we do kick off, guys, a question in the comments like we always do, relatively simple one today. Who are you hoping to see some big plays from on Sunday, or I should say Saturday, both on offense and on defense? So give me one offensive player and one defensive player that you hope to see some big plays from to maybe help boost their stock just a little bit. My answer will be at the end of the show. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. The Chargers versus Rams Week 1 preseason game preview. So exciting having the Chargers back out on the field, and a lot to talk about. So normally when we would start these videos off, we would go ahead and give an update as far as the injury report. Now, be it preseason, it's not going to be something that we have full information on quite yet, but a couple of guys to note that you might not see out there on Saturday. We're going to kind of follow what we've been hearing from Daniel Pomper and who's been participating in camp. So right now we've got guys like Kenneth Murray, of course, who's not going to be playing. He's still recovering from injury. Donald Parham, Trey McKitty, Nick Neiman, Ty Shelby, Tevon Campbell, Isaac Weaver are some guys to note that haven't been participating in training camp, or I should say in practice, on August 11th. We haven't gotten an update since then. And then Amin Ogbong back in the lineup as well, and then Mike Williams, Khalil Mack, Drew Trinkle, etc., etc. Mark Webb probably being one to know as well, returning to practice. Maybe he does see some action on Saturday. As for the Rams, again, we don't have a ton of information, so I'm not quite sure. But either way, the Rams coming off a Super Bowl victory are going to be looking to bolster their depth as well, so it'll be one to monitor on each side. Now to get into kind of the meat and potatoes of this video, trying to figure out who to look out for, the numbers on the jerseys, because I got a lot of new names out there, trying to figure out who to root for, who we're trying to see get some production on Saturday to maybe give themselves a leg up in terms of making the 53. And we're going to start off here with DeAndre Carter. Now, before we get into the offensive players to pay extra attention to, I also wanted to answer a question that I'm getting quite a bit as we're approaching our first preseason game. How do I watch the games, especially if I'm out of market, especially if they're not being aired? The one and only answer I can give you right now is NFL Game Pass. Of course, you can get NFL Plus as well, but I think you can only watch those on your phone. And even then, I don't know if you have to be in market. NFL Game Pass, there's a method with ExpressVPN, my sponsor, that you can use. Check out the link in the comment section or in the description if you guys want a tutorial on that. As far as I know, that's been working, and that's how I'm going to be watching the game with you guys on Saturday. Now to get into some of these players to be looking out for, paying extra attention to. We want to see some big plays. We want to see some productivity, and maybe it's going to shift things in terms of the depth chart, who makes the 53, maybe who gets more touches as the season approaches. We're going to start here with DeAndre Carter, Jalen Guyton, and the backup wide receivers. Now, DeAndre Carter has been your camp star this season. Of course, there's a lot of people throwing guesses out there. A lot of us, knew Josh Palmer was going to be great. You can definitely say his name as well. I was really rooting for Gerald Everett, but it really does feel like DeAndre Carter is miles ahead in terms of wowing the Chargers fans that didn't expect to see much more than a punt returner, or a return specialist, I should say, in DeAndre Carter. And he's been absolutely fantastic as a receiver as well. Now, of course, you're not going to see Justin Herbert out there or anything slinging the ball, but we do feel like even players like Easton Stick and Chase Daniels might give an opportunity to shine as a receiver. And again, reminder to everybody, I'm not sure if I skipped over this, the players that we expect to see on Saturday are going to be mainly your backup. Superstars like Herbert, Bosa, Mack, Allen Williams, etc., likely are not going to be playing. But again, in a year where there's an influx of talent at depth positions, these are games 100% worth watching and monitoring. Now, we know DeAndre Carter. I'm excited to see if he can make some big plays happen on Saturday. And as equally as important, I want to see what he can do in the return game. But what about these other receivers? Jalen Guyton, Maurice French, we got Bradford, a couple other guys in there that maybe are wanting to fight for a roster spot. At this point, you're going to need something pretty big. And the preseason is definitely where you can prove it. And Jalen Guyton's situation right now, too, it feels like with the ascent of DeAndre Carter, maybe his snaps and touches have been put in jeopardy just a little bit. If he can go out there and show that he has improved, that he does still have what it takes to be the Justin Herbert deep threat, I think he can definitely get involved a lot during the season as well. And I do expect him to be involved. Him and DeAndre Carter, Jalen Guyton, both of these guys, I do feel like the Chargers are going to utilize as deep threats, especially DeAndre Carter in terms of like trick plays. But yes, I want to see how these players are utilized. It may give us a window into how many touches they get in the season. Next up, everybody's favorite topic on every team every year, the offensive line. These guys do not get enough love ever. It doesn't matter the football team. And you know what? Chargers fans, I do believe, appreciate what we have on the offensive line, seeing as how difficult it's been being a Chargers fan with the O-lines that we've had in years past. Over the last couple of seasons, it's been completely transformed. The guys that you're going to want to watch out for, of course, you got the rookies, Zion Johnson, you got Jamari Sawyer. These guys are going to be very important because they will be getting snaps, and maybe, just maybe, we're going to see, guys like Jamari Sawyer elevate to a point where the Chargers want to mix something up on the offensive line. Either way, the rookies definitely very important to monitor. The biggest probably story on the offensive line is going to be your right tackle. And of course, we've kind of been waiting to see, who pulls ahead in terms of Trey Pipkins and Storm Norton. We may have had to wait up until the actual first preseason game to get our actual look at things. I do expect Trey Pipkins and Norton to get split reps pretty evenly. But when it comes to who's pulling away in the competition, we've got to see him going up head-to-head versus some real competition in the preseason. And right now, I really couldn't give you an answer. It seems kind of, like a stalemate. I'm really hoping to see some good production first and foremost, but secondly, some answers as to who's going to be protecting Justin Herbert's right side. And then lastly, all of the backup offensive linemen. We got some really good players backing up there. Will Clapp, Brendan Hymas, of course, you got Sawyer. I want to see some of these guys maybe build a case for themselves in terms of if they are called upon, that the Chargers are still in pretty safe hands. So I like what I see there. Next up on the offense, we got to talk a little bit about the quarterback position, as there have been rumors that the Chargers are feeling more comfortable about rostering three quarterbacks yet again this season. I am of the opinion that the Chargers, especially with such a complicated defense, are probably going to want to cut down on some of these less necessary depth roster spots for certain positions, including the quarterback. If I'm the Chargers, I'm looking to roster two quarterbacks this season. At this point, it feels like three's maybe going to happen, but either way, if you're Easton Stick, who in my opinion is the more talented in terms of bringing competitiveness to the position, bringing production to the position, you got to put up some good numbers on Saturday in the preseason to help the Chargers get a good look at their weapons, while also maybe giving them a little bit more comfort in keeping Easton Stick on the starting 53, if that makes sense. Either way, again, Easton Stick, I feel like gives us the better odds in terms of maybe winning a game versus a guy like Chase Daniel. But Chase Daniel, again, I feel is more valuable in terms of his mentorship. Either way, we're going to want to see what we can get out of the quarterback position to help us see what we've got in the rest of the skill positions on offense. Speaking of skill positions, spiller positions, we got the running backs next, and this is probably going to be the biggest ones in terms of offensive weapons that you're going to be looking for production from. because the Chargers, in my opinion, there's two things to look for here. I feel like the Chargers have definitely been adding pieces to boost their power run. The guys, running between the tackles, finding good blockers to build some space, give them a chance to convert on the ground and get some good yardage, right? But I also do feel like every single one of these ads has also given us pretty decent upside in terms of utilizing these running backs as receivers as well, get them involved in the passing game. And that's where I feel like Isaiah Spiller, Xander Horvath, even a Joshua Kelly can start showing off a little bit in terms of their skill set and how they fit the Chargers system. Now, of course, your rookies, Isaiah Spiller and Xander Horvath, should be seeing plenty of snaps on Saturday, which is very exciting to see because, of course, a lot of people very high on Isaiah Spiller, myself included. But kind of the sleeper that I think, again, late round pick, maybe not a lot of teams or a lot of people outside the Chargers fan base will understand or even, recognize the name of Xander Horvath, but I think some big plays out of Xander could really shift how he's utilized in the regular season as not your traditional fullback, but one that gets involved through the passing game as a running back, maybe even a receiver at points. Could definitely help his stock throughout the course of the regular season. So those are two guys I'm very excited to see. Outside of that, you got guys like Letty Brown, Kevin Marks, and Larry Roundtree that are really going to be fighting for a roster spot, which again, if there's a position that maybe you can cut down a little bit on, it might be running back. I can definitely see a guy like Letty Brown, Kevin Marks, even Larry Roundtree making that practice squad and being available if something were to happen to, the numbers the Chargers have at running back. To make the starting lineup, you're going to have to stand out, and the Chargers, in my opinion, have like 3 or 4 very good running backs that kind of bundles in with Xander Horvath that should be pretty solidified by the start of the season. But you never know. Letty Brown, Kevin Marks, these guys could definitely pop off and make a good case for themselves as a depth running back on the roster. Next up, we've got some more receiving weapons, I will say, in the tight end position, because it feels like outside of maybe Trey McKitty, the Chargers tight ends are built to receive, right? They're built to go out there and be involved in the passing game. Will we see some Gerald Everett on Saturday? Maybe. We might see number 7 on the field, but I do know that there's other guys behind them that we should see some production out of as well. Sage Surratt, who was just signed out of the USFL. Hunter Kampmoyer, former Oregon Duck. He's been looking really good in camp. There are some guys that may be fighting for, well, again, maybe a practice squad spot, maybe even a depth tight end position there. I would like to see what these guys have to offer. Of course, Donald Parham's probably not going to be participating. Gerald Everett, if he is out there, I'd love to see some big plays in terms of how he uses his physical traits in order to plow through, contact to generate extra yards. Outside of that, tight end, pretty, cut and dry at this point in terms of looking for some decent upside there. Now let's move into the defensive positions for this preseason game, and this is where things get extremely interesting as the Chargers, I wouldn't expect them to reveal too much in terms of the complexity of their defensive playbook, but at the same time, I do think they want to throw some things out there to really battle test some of the guys looking for a depth spot, maybe even some of these guys that want to get involved a little bit more in terms of this defensive scheme. There's going to be a lot of rotation. So let's go ahead and start here with the cornerbacks, which again, cornerbacks have been looking really, really good. I think maybe one of the biggest pieces of this defense that we knew was going to be elevated because of J.C. Jackson. We just didn't know how much better they were going to be this year, and boy, do they look vastly improved, which again, so impressive given that we already had high expectations. Guys like Jasir Taylor, Dean Leonard, a lot of these other backup cornerbacks, Trevon Campbell, Keelan Hall, these guys, again, are going to be fighting for backup spots because the Chargers at this point, I think, have 4 locked and loaded cornerbacks. You got J.C. Jackson, Asante Samuel Jr., Bryce Callahan, and Mike Davis. I think these 4 guys definitely make the roster. If I'm the Chargers that's going to be utilizing a lot of DBs throughout the year in my system, I'm going to want to roster at least 6, whereas maybe in years past you can get away with 5, which does leave 2 positions open. And right now, my favorites are Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard, but you never know. A big performance again by Trevon Campbell, Keelan Hall, one of these depth guys could help them make the roster. But at this point, those are my favorites to watch out for. Jasir Taylor's been looking great in camp and throwing in some turnovers, big plays. I think even a pick 6 at one point. He's going to be one that I'm definitely interested to see elevated in this defense. What about the other DBs in safeties? We got Mark Webb, JT Woods, Raheem Lane, Alohi Gilman. Of course, we're not going to see Derwin James participating, even if he was extended at this point. I don't think he plays in this game. And maybe we see a a little bit of Nasir Adderley, but again, I think we have a lot of depth at the safety position that we're going to want to see what these other guys got, right? Mark Webb, who just did return to practice, he's probably one of the biggest highlights on this list for me because of the way he's been utilized by Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley loves moving around his DBs, and Mark Webb is definitely one of those guys that's been shining despite where he's playing. He can play up top, he can play in the nickel, he can play in the money / linebacker, safety, hybrid role, and I would love to see more of his skill set from those different positions. He's one of those guys that could certainly break out this year as a nice complement and accent piece to this defense that I'm looking forward to see maybe getting some reps in preseason. Outside of that, you got JT Woods, the brand new rookie, third-round selection that should be seeing some decent playing time on Saturday as well. And honestly, it's one that a lot of us are very anticipant of. JT Woods maybe needs a little bit more work in his coverage, his awareness, his field positioning, but he does have the speed and the size to maybe go out there and make some big plays and generating turnovers. Outside of that, Raheem Lane's kind of been one of those, again, maybe little brother camp stars that we've seen out there. He's been looking really nice. One of those guys that I definitely think is viable in terms of fighting for a roster spot if the Chargers, again, feel they need more players backing up their starters at DB because of how we're using them. I think Raheem Lane might have a chance at making the 53 as well. And then top that off, we got Alohi Gilman, who's been a very serviceable backup for a couple of years now. Next, let's move to the defensive line, and this is probably going to be the unit that I'm paying the most attention to on defense. Maybe even a little bit more than cornerback, because corner looks really, really good. Defensive line, I need to see a little bit of production, or at least a little proof in the pudding in terms of defending against the run. Now, the Chargers, especially in the scrimmage, in practice, have been looking a lot better versus the run in general, right? And again, that's something the Chargers desperately needed to improve on. They're going to have some pretty decent competition versus the Rams, who do have some very nice backup running backs. I don't know if Cam Akers going to be playing. Darrell Henderson's pretty nice, and they got a couple of nice, backups down there too. I would be very anticipant to see how the Chargers are able to defend against them. Some of my biggest, most anticipated performance or players I hope to see perform are Braden Fayoko, Tito Ogbonia, and then maybe even a Christian Covington. The Chargers have a lot of players at that position right now that could definitely earn a spot, but there's really no solidification there yet. We really don't have any solid answers as to who's going to be playing at these positions. I feel like Braden Fayoko, with a solid preseason, could work his way into the 53, and he's one of those guys that I'm very high on that I wish saw more playing time last year, and he's been looking vastly improved even this year in training camp. You got your rookie in Tito Ogbonia, who I also feel like could put up some nice reps versus the run in this preseason, but I think the biggest thing to look out for, because again, we might be seeing Sebastian Joseph Day, Austin Johnson, Morgan Fox get some reps in this game, but the biggest things I want to see are the Jerry Tillery competition players, right? I do think we're going to see Jerry Tillery out there. He's trying to fight for a spot right now, but if these other guys, Morgan Fox maybe being one of the main ones, go out there and have a great preseason, it may be enough to push Jerry Tillery out of the 53, which again, if Jerry, I'm hoping, again, I'm not rooting against him, but if he goes out there and doesn't put up at least a decent performance in the preseason versus the second and third teams, these backups in the NFL, again, it might be better for the team to look towards another player that does put up a better performance. I think it's pretty cut and dry there. So that's a position I'm going to be definitely looking to see some production out of. I want to see some heat from the interior. I want to see some ability to stop the run, and I do think we have the players to make that happen. We just have to identify the pieces of the puzzle that are best to keep on the team. Next up at the edge position, or I should say linebacker first. Next at linebacker, we have Damon Lloyd. Now, I do want to see how the Chargers utilize Kyle Van Noy. Do I think he's playing in the preseason? I don't really know. He's a veteran. Maybe he gets a couple of series at most. And I would do want to see how he fares in the Chargers system, especially in coverage. But the biggest name that I'm looking to see is Damon Lloyd, who's been, again, one of these gems through free agency this year. He has been all over the field in terms of coverage. He's been looking great. He's been interrupting passes, tipping, setting up interceptions. He's been playing great versus the run. He's been playing great in generating heat. I want to see Damon Lloyd make this roster, if I'm being quite honest with you guys. If I had to become biased in any way, I would love to see 53 make the 53, if that makes sense. And I really would love to see Damon Lloyd utilized a little bit during the season as well, because of how impressed I am with his practice, his scrimmage, everything we've seen in the preseason. I would love to see what he can do on Saturday. So again, look for 53 out there because again, he's someone we're rooting to make the 53. At least I am at this point. When it comes to the position of edge, I do think there's a couple of players to look out for if you're a Chargers fan. Number 44 here, Jamal Davis, who again, maybe flying under the radar for a lot of fans. Me too. During the preseason this year, he's been looking really nice in camp, man. He's got the size. He's got the strength, I would say. He's got some decent speed on him. And I do think that as of right now, he's one of my favorites to be taking one of these backup edge positions. I would love to see him make some big plays on Saturday to really solidify that. And then, of course, you've got the rookie last season in Chris Rumpf, who maybe had a shaky start, could definitely build his stock a little bit with some quality reps on Saturday during the preseason as well. So those are two guys to be looking out for there. And then finally, maybe, again, an underrated aspect of this roster because we got so much better at so many different positions on defense and offense this season. Special teams is going to be a big one to monitor through the preseason because, again, like we've seen in the past, you can have a great offense, a great defense, but sometimes special teams, if they're exceptionally bad, can drag a team down big time. Do I think the Chargers are in that position this year? Not really. I think the special teams looks pretty good, at least average, maybe even a little below average at this point, but I think they're good enough. Can we see signs of improvement, though? The Chargers signed Josh Harris, best long snapper in the league. He should be a big upgrade there. J.K. Scott, who you're seeing on the screen right now, he's been showing a lot of promise in camp, and I do think the Chargers may have gotten an upgrade at punter. Dustin Hopkins, our kicker, can he remain consistent? But the biggest thing I'm looking for, outside of, let's say, DeAndre Carter, I want to see him return a couple of kicks or punts on Saturday as well, is the entire return team as a whole. I want to see these quality depth players really put forth the effort in maybe, just generating some nice plays on special teams in those returns. So that's something to definitely look out for because you want to see these players definitely shine where you can. Now, Rams players to note, again, the Rams more or less coming out with some, shifting players this season. They lost a couple of big pieces in Von Miller and Robert Woods. That's right, at wide receiver. But again, we're probably not going to see a lot of these big vets out there. In terms of what I'm expecting from the Rams, we're going to see a lot of shades of Brandon Staley's defense that he made out there with the Los Angeles Rams. But we're also going to see, maybe in my opinion, a lot of run. I would say in terms of their offensive attack, maybe a lot of running snaps for them, again, which would be really good for the Chargers to see how their defense is stacking up in terms of run defense at those depth positions. Either way, the Rams, I'm interested to see what they decide to roll out with there because, again, they have a lot to live up to after winning the Super Bowl last year. So to wrap this video up, to answer my own question at the top of the video, who am I hoping to see the biggest plays from in the preseason week 1 game? My two answers, because we want one on offense and one on defense. The two guys I want to see are Isaiah Spiller and JT Woods. Maybe a bit of a cop-out, right? Two decent, really nice players from the draft this last season. We want to see some production out of them. But at the same time, I do really want to have more of an understanding of how the Chargers running back 2 group looks in terms of, Isaiah Spiller, what he's going to really bring to that position while playing against some quality competition in the Rams backups, while also seeing if JT Woods can really figure out, his coverage, the whole transition to the NFL. Maybe we do see something click through the preseason where he does get more involved in his rookie year. That would be something awesome to witness on Saturday. An interception by JT Woods would be a dream. A touchdown by Isaiah Spiller would be a dream. That's what I'm hoping for. Now, like we do at the end of all of these preview videos, we do give a score prediction. Of course, in the preseason, it's definitely not as important. What's more important is the production we see from these players. But if you guys want a score prediction for me on this one, I'm going to say Chargers 17, Rams 24. Again, Chargers not really looking to win this game so much as get a nice sample size of this defense. And I don't think, again, the win is super important. If the Chargers win this one, awesome. If they don't, whatever. But that's going to be my score prediction for that one. Well, guys, let me know in the comment section what you think, which players that you're excited to see maybe get some reps versus another team like the Rams backups, and who you're hoping to see some big plays from on defense and on offense. There's going to be guys that are fighting for roster spots that I did not mention in this video. Let me know who you're pulling for. Definitely a lot of big names, a lot of quality, talented players out there that would look really, really nice on the Chargers, even if it's just as a depth piece. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you liked what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time, and as as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Come on, Isaiah Spiller. I want to see a touchdown on Saturday.